Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. Today we have updates on illegal immigration arrests, a country singer's passing earlier this month, and Mr. Football. I'm also going to share some of the ideas y'all sent me regarding how you might have renamed the Gulf. Those were fun to read. Hey, I'm glad y'all are here. I'm Mike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. Reports indicate that immigration enforcement has taken place in Alabama in the form of arrests, reports AL.com's Sarah White's Kodacheck. According to Fultondale Police, 3 people were arrested there Sunday on outstanding re-entry warrants. Guns were found during the arrests. And, according to the executive director of the Alabama Coalition for Immigrant Justice, arrests were made in a Huntsville home. Allison Hamilton said that the man officers were after wasn't home, but they arrested several others who were there, leaving a woman and a baby. She said those collateral arrests are a change from what her organization saw before President Trump took office. CNN also reported Tuesday that several former Alabama residents were recently deported to Guatemala. Now, because of the very nature of someone's being undocumented, we don't know how many immigrants are in Alabama illegally. Immigration groups estimate there are 183,000 total immigrants in Alabama, and that around 20% are here illegally. The math students out there know that would be more than 36,000 undocumented residents, but that number is unconfirmed. Highly unconfirmed. Now, President Trump has raised ICE arrest quotas to at least 1,200 arrests per day, according to the Washington Post. Country singer Melba Montgomery died earlier this month after a long fight with dementia, reports AL.com's Mark Heim. Now, we're a little late getting to this one, but I was away when this broke and I didn't want to miss it. Montgomery was born in Tennessee, but she grew up in Florence, Alabama. She was known as a duet partner during the 60s and 70s, and she had a number of hit solo singles as well, including the 1974 song No Charge, which went number 1 on the country charts. Now, history will probably remember her most as George Jones' duet partner years before he matched up with Tammy Wynette, who was another country legend who lived in Alabama before making it in Nashville. Jones himself has been quoted as saying Montgomery was a better match for his voice than Wynette, which is saying something because George and Tammy were huge. Now, we're so used to hearing George and Tammy that it's probably hard to make an unbiased comparison. But if you give We Must Have Been Out of Our Minds a spin, you see how Jones and Montgomery are coming from a more common artistic space. If you do take the time to listen, know that they're really throwing it back. It is not for mild country fans. Melba Montgomery was 86 years old. We have a new Mr. Football in Alabama, but he still wore a Saraland uniform. Saraland High School senior quarterback KJ Lacey made it 3 in a row for the Spartans when he was named Mr. Football by the Alabama Sports Writers Association at its banquet in Montgomery, reports AL.com's Ben Thomas. Saraland's Ryan Williams won the award the previous 2 seasons. Now, the previous record for schools winning consecutive Mr. Footballs was exactly 1 before Saraland went on this streak. The award has been handed out annually for 43 years. Lacey has signed to play college ball at Texas. He passed for 327 yards and 4 touchdowns in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game just last month. Hey, let's take a quick break, and if you're up for a little fun, I'll share some of the suggestions I got for alternative names to the Gulf of Mexico/America. Y'all stay with us. Thanks for hanging out a few minutes longer. On Monday, I asked folks to suggest alternative new names for the Gulf of Mexico that were a little more southern sounding than Gulf of America, to give it a little regional flavor. Now, it's not intended to suggest that the Gulf of Mexico needed a name change or that we're taking some big stand against Gulf of America either. We just figured that if somebody's going to up and change the name, some southern folks ought to be able to weigh in on it. Now, I can't share all of them here or we'll keep you too long, but here are a few that jumped out to me. James brought some geographic reason into the conversation and tossed out Gulf of Florida. Since there's already a Gulf of Maine, I'll add to that the current existence of the Gulfs of California and Alaska. So as soon as Canada is officially a state, we could say that the four corners of the 50 contiguous get their own gulfs. Michael went straight to the topic that I did, and that's food. He mentioned Gulf of Gravy and Sea of Shrimp and Grits. Those were solid suggestions. I've gone through a sea of shrimp and grits over the course of my lifetime. Let me toss in Fry Everything Basin as well. Miranda crushed it with Gulf of Lower Alabama. Now, that's more inclusive than it sounds at first, because as Florida Panhandle people know, their part of the Sunshine State is also called L.A. She also suggested Not Your Mama's Ocean, maybe as a signal to all those tourists who generically call the Gulf the ocean. I don't know whether Bob was being provocative or sarcastic with Gulf of the Confederacy, but that's going hard either way. Ryan had several good ones, but since the nihilists need one, is that how you say that? Nihilists? How about Gulf of Extinction? It's not particularly southern, but it's a nod to the asteroid impact off the Yucatan Peninsula that wiped out most animals and ended the Cretaceous period. Now, Ryan, who's still not exactly turning toward bright, shiny optimism here, also had the Gulf of Diminishing Returns as a nod to mishandled and or struggling seafood populations. Sea oysters. Lorraine shared an idea she saw on an internet meme with Gulf of Margaritaville. Beverly noted how Florida's Big Bend is often called the armpit of the South. I can certainly vouch for that it's called the armpit, not that it is the armpit. I can't get on board, however, with her suggestion of Gulf of Hyperhidrosis, although everybody does do some sweating on the Gulf Coast come July. Jason tossed out Gulf of Intelligence, and there's a couple ways you might read that one. Kenneth wanted to know whether Redneck Riviera was out, although technically I guess that refers to the coastline. I say that it's never out. I've heard it all my life, and I know it was created as an insult, but at some point you just learn to embrace it. I'll explain by sharing a joke that Jeff Foxworthy told years ago. He said you can't make fun of rednecks unless you are one, and I are one. Thanks, everybody, for sharing all your thoughts on the Gulf naming issue. Even if I didn't mention them here, I read them and enjoyed them. And thank y'all for listening to us today. We're going to be back here again tomorrow. Until then, y'all come by and see us anytime you want to on the internet at al.com.